Good evening, it's Monday the 24th of November and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Security attack. Deadly assault shakes Peshawar as suicide bombers stormed the Federal Constabulary headquarters, killing 3 security personnel. Ceasefire violation. Israel strikes Beirut suburb, killing Hezbollah's top military commander Ali Tabtabai along with 5 others. Wedding fun. Newlyweds celebrate their first dance in a pool at the YMCA where they first met.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Selena Jayathilaka.
Good evening and thank you once again for joining us on World News Tonight on other Derana News channel. In Peshawar, 2 suicide bombers struck the headquarters of Pakistan's Federal Constabulary today. According to authorities, the attack killed 3 security personnel and wounded at least 5. Security forces have cordoned off the area and no group has yet claimed responsibility.
The attack occurred in one of Peshawar's most secure zones, where the Federal Constabulary headquarters is fortified with multiple layers of checkpoints and armed patrols. Despite these measures, the bombers managed to breach the perimeter, suggesting a high level of planning and possible reconnaissance. Investigations are now reviewing CCTV footage and interviewing security personnel to determine how the attackers penetrated the compound. Medical teams responded quickly, transporting the wounded to nearby hospitals where several remain in critical condition. Authorities say the blast radius indicates the use of high-grade explosives consistent with previous attacks targeting security forces in the region. Forensics officers are analyzing remnants of the devices to identify their origin, hoping to trace the supply chain and uncover who may have facilitated the operation. The attack has raised some concerns about the resurgence of militant activity in northwestern Pakistan, an area that has seen repeated cycles of violence. Although no group has claimed responsibility, officials suspect factions with a history of targeting law enforcement. The federal government has called for an internal security review, while local residents fear the incident may signal a new wave of instability in the province.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has sharply condemned Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's recent comments on Taiwan, calling them shocking and saying Tokyo has crossed a red line. Beijing has lodged protests and warned it will respond firmly, escalating tensions between the 2 regional powers, and diplomats watch.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has added to tensions with Japan over a remark on Taiwan made by its new Prime Minister, calling it shocking. Wang is now the most senior Chinese official to comment publicly on the issue, which has shaken relations for more than 2 weeks. In a statement posted on the Foreign Ministry's website on Sunday, Wang said Japan was crossing a red line that must not be touched, accusing Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi of attempting to intervene militarily over Taiwan, and that it was shocking for Japan's leader to openly send a wrong signal. Takaichi was responding to a question in Parliament on November 7th over a hypothetical Chinese attack on Taiwan, when she said it could trigger a military response from Tokyo. Beijing views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and has not ruled out the use of force to take control of the island. Taipei rejects Beijing's claims and says only the island's people can decide the future. On Friday, China raised the issue with the United Nations Secretary-General, vowing to defend itself. Japan dismissed Beijing's complaint to the UN as entirely unacceptable, saying its commitment to peace was unchanged. In a Sunday statement, Wang said China must resolutely hit back over Japan's move. He threatened to dredge up its warring past if it, quote, persists in its wrong course, saying people have the right to re-examine Japan's historical crimes. After the G20 leaders' summit on Sunday, Takaichi did not comment on Wang's statement, telling reporters only that Japan remained open to dialogue with China. Beijing had said the 2 sides would not meet at the gathering in South Africa, which Takaichi confirmed. The dispute has led to the Asian neighbour's biggest crisis in years, hitting trade and cultural ties as well. China is Japan's largest export market after the United States, buying about $125 billion of Japanese goods in 2024, according to UN trade data.
Torrential monsoon rains have unleashed widespread flooding across Southeast Asia. Over 11,000 people in 7 Malaysian states have been affected, while central Vietnam reports a rising death toll and major economic losses. In southern Thailand, the city of Hat Yai has been declared a disaster zone as rescue operations ramp up.
In Malaysia, disaster response teams are working across Kedah, Kelantan, Perlis, Penang, Terengganu and Selangor, where swollen rivers and continuous rainfall have submerged homes, roads and farmland. Thousands of families have been relocated to temporary shelters, with authorities warning that water levels could rise further if the monsoon intensifies. Damage assessments are ongoing, but officials say infrastructure repairs may take weeks. Vietnam is facing one of its most destructive flooding events in recent years, with rainfall surpassing 1,900 millimeters in some central provinces. Entire communities in Dak Lak and Can Hoa have been cut off, forcing the military to deploy helicopters to deliver emergency supplies. The government estimates economic losses at more than 8.9 trillion dong, as vast swaths of cropland, including crucial coffee-producing regions, remain underwater. In Thailand, Hat Yai, one of the South's major commercial hubs, have been overwhelmed by fast-rising floodwaters, prompting a full evacuation order for high-risk districts. Rescue teams and military units are navigating submerged streets to reach stranded residents, while the government sets up a forward command center to coordinate relief. Officials warn that additional provinces may face similar conditions if heavy rains continue.
According to Japanese media and police reports in Tokyo today, a white sedan crashed into a group of pedestrians, injuring 11 people, including 2 in critical condition. The driver fled the scene but was later arrested, and authorities are treating the incident as a suspected hit-and-run.
Tokyo authorities are scrambling to piece together the circumstances surrounding a shocking hit-and-run in which a white sedan plowed into a crowd of pedestrians, injuring 11 people. The incident occurred in a busy part of the city where foot traffic is typically heavy, especially during midday hours. Eyewitnesses described a chaotic scene as the vehicle mounted the curb without warning, sending people scattering and leaving several victims lying on the pavement before the car sped away. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, transporting the injured to nearby hospitals. Among the victims, 2 remain in critical condition, prompting doctors to closely monitor them for potential complications. Police say the injuries range from broken bones to severe head trauma. Medical teams have praised the quick actions of bystanders who attempted to stabilize some of the victims before ambulances arrived, noting that their interventions may have prevented further deterioration. The driver, who fled immediately after the crash, was tracked down and arrested hours later, following an extensive manhunt supported by CCTV footage and witness accounts. Investigators are now trying to determine the motive behind the crash, examining whether it was accidental, reckless driving, or a deliberate act. Authorities are also reviewing the driver's past record and mental state as part of the inquiry. As the investigation unfolds, city officials are calling for improved pedestrian safety measures in high-traffic zones to prevent such tragedies in the future.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. In Beirut's Haifa suburb, an Israeli airstrike killed Hezbollah's top military commander, Haytham Ali Tabatabai, marking a rare strike on the Lebanese capital amid last year's US-brokered ceasefire. Lebanon's health ministry reports 5 killed and 28 wounded, while Hezbollah warns the attack crossed a red line.
Video released by the Israeli army shows the moment it struck a building in a southern suburb of Beirut on Sunday. Israel's army says the strike targeted and killed Hezbollah's top military official, Ali Tabatabai. Hezbollah confirmed the death of Tabatabai in a statement, mourning him as, quote, the great jihadist commander who they said had worked to confront the Israeli enemy till the last moment of his blessed life. Lebanon's health ministry said the strike killed 5 people and wounded 28 more. Country President Joseph Aoun urged the international community to intervene to halt the Israeli attacks. In a short televised statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he would not allow Hezbollah to rebuild its forces. He added that he expected the Lebanese government, quote, to fulfill its obligation to disarm Hezbollah. Hezbollah official Mahmoud Kumati said Israel's strike crossed a, quote, red line, adding that their leadership would decide on whether and how the group would respond. The United States imposed sanctions on Tabatabai in 2016, identifying him as a key Hezbollah leader and offering a reward of up to $5 million for information on him. The Israeli military statement said Tabatabai, quote, commanded most of Hezbollah's units and worked hard to restore them to readiness for war with Israel. The strike came a week before Pope Leo is set to land in Lebanon and despite a U.S. brokered truce a year ago. The November 2024 ceasefire was meant to end a year of fighting between Hezbollah and the Israeli military, triggered by Hezbollah's rocket fire on Israeli posts, a day after the October 7, 2023 attack by its Palestinian ally Hamas. But since the truce, Israel has kept up near-daily strikes on Lebanon, targeting what it says are Hezbollah armed depots, fighters, and efforts by the group to rebuild.
The United States and Ukraine say they have crafted an updated and refined peace framework in Geneva to end the war with Russia, revising a controversial 28-point U.S. plan. While both sides praise the talks as highly productive, key issues, especially Ukraine's future security, remain unresolved.
The United States and Ukraine announced an updated peace framework to end the war with Russia, revising an earlier Trump-era plan criticized as being too favorable to Moscow. After talks in Geneva, US and Ukrainian delegations called discussions highly productive and said they would be continued in the coming days. The White House said the revised plan includes stronger security assurances and reflects Ukraine's national interests. Ukrainian officials offered no separate comment and were not immediately available.
We had a very good day today. I think we made a tremendous amount of progress.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Sunday that significant progress was made on a plan to end the war in Ukraine, but no agreement was reached on how to guarantee Kyiv's security amid concerns about the threat posed by Russia.
Clearly, I think we all recognize that part of getting a final end to this war will require for Ukraine to feel as it is safe and it is never going to be invaded or attacked again.
Ukrainian, US and European officials met in Geneva on Sunday to discuss a draft US plan to end the war, after Kyiv and its allies voiced alarm over what they saw as major concessions to Russia. The 28-point plan includes calls for Ukraine to cede some territory, accept limits on its military, and renounce ambitions to join NATO. For many Ukrainians, such terms would amount to capitulation after nearly 4 years of fighting in Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II. European officials, who said they had not been consulted on the plan, on Sunday offered a modified version that pushed back on some of those proposed limits on Kyiv's armed forces and territorial concessions. US President Donald Trump had given Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky until this Thursday to approve the plan, but on Saturday said the proposal was not his final offer. On Sunday, Trump posted that Ukraine had, quote, zero gratitude for America's efforts to end the war. Soon after, Andriy Yermak, head of the Ukrainian delegation, thanked Trump for his commitment to Kyiv. Minutes later, Zelensky also thanked Trump in a social media post. Two sources told that US and Ukrainian officials were discussing the possibility of Zelensky traveling to the US, maybe as early as this week, to discuss the US peace plan with Trump.
US-Venezuela tensions are escalating as President Donald Trump refuses to rule out military action against Caracas, accusing it of fueling the drug trade. The Trump administration has carried out lethal strikes on suspected Venezuelan drug vessels, while Venezuela warns of a fierce response if its sovereignty is violated.
The FAA warning major airlines about a potentially hazardous situation in the skies over Venezuela, citing worsening security and heightened military activity that could threaten aircraft at all altitudes. 6 international carriers now suspending flights to Venezuela's capital, Caracas, as President Trump ramps up military pressure on Venezuela with a massive show of force in the Caribbean Sea. Deploying the USS Gerald Ford, the largest and most lethal carrier in the world. A powerful display aimed at Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, who the Trump administration claims is responsible for trafficking drugs into the U.S. Maduro has denied any ties to the drug trade. Since September, the U.S. has launched at least 20 strikes on suspected drug boats in the Caribbean Sea, killing more than 80 people, many of them from Venezuela, but the administration offering no public evidence to prove they were actually smuggling drugs, alarming even some Republican lawmakers who say they're left in the dark. President Trump says he's not ruling out putting U.S. troops on the ground in Venezuela.
I don't rule out that. I don't rule out anything. We just have to take care of Venezuela.
And on Friday, Trump said he'll be speaking to Maduro in the not-too-distant future.
I can't tell you what I'm going to tell him, but I have something very specific to say.
Guinea-Bissau held presidential and legislative elections yesterday with incumbent President Umaro Sissoco Embalo seeking a rare consecutive second term. The vote comes amid long-standing coup fears and deep political divisions, a critical test for stability in this chronically fragile West African nation.
Voters queued patiently, clutching their voting cards at polling stations, as Guinea-Bissau held its presidential and legislative elections on Sunday. Residents were hoping for change, stability, and development in the politically volatile West African nation. The country saw at least 9 coups between 1974, when it gained independence from Portugal, and 2020, when President Umaro Sissoco Embalo took office. In this election, Embalo is in a tight contest to become the first leader in 3 decades to win a second consecutive term. He echoed voters' sentiments as he cast his vote on Sunday.
I call on everyone to vote massively, to elect a person who will bring stability and progress to Guinea-Bissau, to build this country.
He faces 11 other candidates, the strongest being Fernando Diaz, a relative political newcomer backed by the party that led the fight for independence from Portugal in the 1960s and 1970s. Ahead of the elections, Diaz vowed to tackle drug trafficking in the nation, a key transit point for cocaine traveling from South America to Europe.
How is it possible for a drug plane to take off in Guinea-Bissau at the airport and the president says he has no knowledge of it? We also think that, being aware of this, we will fight against drug trafficking in Guinea-Bissau, especially when it's coming from public authorities.
Analysts predict a close race between Embalo and Diaz. A runoff will be held if no candidate receives more than 50% of the vote. Provisional results will be announced on Thursday, according to a spokesperson for the National Electoral Commission.
The Nigerian government has decided to close all schools in the region following the tensions that rose after more than 300 students and 12 teachers were abducted from St. Mary's Catholic School in Niger State. 50 pupils have escaped and reunited with families, but over 250 remain captive.
It's one of the worst mass abductions Nigeria has ever seen. More than 300 children and teachers were kidnapped by gunmen from this Catholic school on Friday. The attack has not yet been claimed by any group. While waiting for more information, the government has decided to close all schools in the region.
We are here to pick up our children because we don't know what is going on because of the insecurity that is in the country. Especially these children, they are girls, you understand. So that is just the reason why we came to pick up our word this morning. We are not happy with the situation that is going on in the country. It's getting too much.
The mass abduction comes after just earlier this week, 25 high school girls were kidnapped in the northwest of the country, forcing 2 provinces to close their schools. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu announced on Saturday that he was canceling his international commitments, including his trip to the G20 summit in Johannesburg, in order to manage the crisis. But for many parents, it is too little, too late.
The government is not doing anything, not even enough, not doing anything to me. With all the manpower that we have, we are lacking securities for our children.
These latest kidnappings are forcing Nigeria to grapple with its security issues at a time when it is already under the international spotlight. U.S. President Donald Trump accused the country of allowing murders of Christians, an allegation denied by Nigeria.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. Towns in Texas and Minnesota are battling it out, not with politics, but with turkeys. Cairo, Texas and Worthington, Minnesota both claim the title of Turkey Capital of the World, and every year their champion turkeys, Ruby, Begonia and Patrick, race in the Great Gobbler Gallop to settle the score.
In Southwest Texas, turkeys are tough as nails. Here in Cuero, this is gobbler country. Not just for Thanksgiving, but all year long. Under these Friday night lights, a big chunk of this tiny town fills these stands for their home team, the Gobblers.
It's supposed to be a big game. One's a gobbler, always a gobbler.
For the team, it's all about the game.
Bleed green. You can feel a heartbeat of your brother sitting next to you.
That heartbeat going through the town, too.
The number one Goblin fans right here.
The support felt well beyond the stadium. Cuero takes pride as the self-proclaimed turkey capital of the world. With its gobbler mascot, Toby the Turkey. Cuero's pride also rooted in tradition. A friendly decades-long rivalry with Worthington, Minnesota, a town that also calls itself the turkey capital. Each year, turkeys from each town race to win a coveted champion title, fastest turkey. Not just for bragging rights, but to keep these gobblers' heads in the game.
Being a gobbler is everything, you know.
We do everything we can to support the football team and the band.
And in the fourth quarter, good vibes from the crowd, lifting the Gobblers to a huge comeback win.
I'm grateful for these kids and these coaches in this community. It's special to call yourself a Cuero Gobbler.
Family on three. 1, 2, 3, family.
An unforgettable celebration unfolded at a local YMCA when Newlyweds Edward LaRue and Marlene Parsons held both their wedding and their first dance in a swimming pool. The couple, who met in a water aerobics class, were married by the facility's pool director and ordained minister as guests watched in swimwear.
Only you. Love is in the water.
Can make
the first dance at a wedding in a pool. Fitting because Edward LaRue met Marlene Parsons in a water aerobics class at their local YMCA. When they got engaged, pool director Allie Morgan, who just happens to be an ordained minister, offered to marry them in the pool. For the big day, Marlene wore a traditional veil and a tutu. Edward sported a long-sleeve tuxedo t-shirt with a top hat. Their guests wore their best swimsuits.
I now pronounce you husband and wife.
There was the traditional bouquet toss. And then
only you.
That first dance with water shoes instead of dancing shoes.
All this world seemed right.
I never expected to find anybody. I always told my kid, I'm not getting remarried. I'll never find anybody that'll put up with me. You know, just. And then I found Marlene.
He found somebody as crazy as he is. He puts laughter in my heart again.
Edward and Marlene say their nuptials went, well, swimmingly.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Selena Jaitilaka, and we leave you tonight with the visuals of a Hollywood auction opening doors to cinematic history for devoted fans. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.adncenglish@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Thank you for watching World News Tonight on the Derana News Channel. Have a good night.